Before starting today's video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video to encourage us to provide the best. A few years back, when I had just turned 16 and obtained my driver's license, I was a young female without my own car. However, my parents allowed me to borrow their car whenever it wasn't in use, and gas was affordable at the time. I loved the feeling of driving, and on weekends I enjoyed cruising around town, often stopping at a 24-hour McDonald's for a late-night snack and drink. It was a rare opportunity for me to be alone, as I still lived with my parents. One Saturday evening, I took my parents' car out for a drive. I didn't have a set route. I just drove wherever I felt like, but I tried to avoid crowded areas with lots of other cars. There were many back roads in my town that connected neighborhoods, although they were less frequently used as the main roads were faster. I turned down one of these quiet roads that led to a posh neighborhood with expensive houses. However, not long after, I noticed headlights flashing in my rearview mirror, and a car was rapidly approaching from behind, flicking its lights on and off. Since there were no other cars around, it was clear that they were trying to get my attention, but I didn't know why. The car continued to tailgate me for about a minute, and then it accelerated, ramming into the back of my car. My car lurched forward, and I was momentarily stunned, unsure of how to handle the situation. Luckily, there didn't appear to be any significant damage, but my plans to reach the neighborhood and pull over in a safer area were abruptly halted by the collision. A lot was racing through my mind at that moment. I was scared and nervous about pulling over, but I also didn't want to bring my parents' car home damaged without getting the other driver's insurance information. I carefully pulled the car to the side and put it in park. The car behind me pulled over too, parking dangerously close to my bumper. They flashed their lights at me again, and I didn't know what to do. Should I stay in my car or get out? I felt incredibly uncomfortable and unsure of how to handle the situation. After a few seconds of indecision, I opened my door and stepped out. The windows of the other car were tinted, making it hard to see who was inside. I walked to the back of my car to assess the damage, but their close parking made it difficult to get a good view. Then, I heard their door open, and I saw a man getting out and approaching me with a friendly smile and a polite wave. It was unexpected, as I was anticipating an angry confrontation. He apologized for the accident and said he must not have been paying attention. I asked for his insurance information, and he pointed towards his car, gesturing for me to go over there. Feeling uneasy, I hesitated. After an awkward pause, I told him I was just going to go home, as the damage didn't seem too bad. However, he insisted that I shouldn't drive my car home as it might cause more damage. He offered me a ride, which made me uncomfortable in the situation. I declined, and as I turned to walk back to my car, he grabbed my arm tightly and tried to pull me towards his car. I managed to break free and quickly made my way back to my car, slamming the door and locking it before he could reach me. He pressed his body against the window, staring at me for a moment before returning to his car. I saw him make a three-point turn in my rearview mirrors and drive away in the opposite direction. When I got home, I woke my dad up and told him what had happened. He said I should never have stopped and immediately called the police. However, the man was never identified. I'll never know what his intentions were or where he was planning to take me. I just feel grateful that I was able to escape the situation, and I worry that someone else might not be as fortunate. It was between 2 and 3 a.m., and I was on a delivery shift at the 24-hour Italian restaurant where I worked. We frequently delivered pastas, soups, and pizzas. We didn't have designated delivery drivers, so we would just figure it out once an order came in. This particular order was a small single meal, only 15 minutes away from the restaurant. However, our owner was greedy and had us accept orders from up to 30 minutes away. As I was driving down a long straight road, listening to music and relaxing, I saw a figure in the middle of my lane. I slowed down, and as I got closer, They started waving their arms in the air and running towards my car. I was in a one-lane road with cars in the oncoming traffic lane, so I had to stop and wait for them to pass before I could go around. The guy ran up to my car and started banging on my window, yelling that he was out of gas and needed help. His aggressive manner of asking for help was weird. Once the other cars passed, I turned slightly to the right to avoid running over the guy's feet and sped off. The guy looked like he was trying to chase my car down the road, so I thought he might have been drunk. However, about 20 seconds down the road, I saw a blue pickup truck on the side, and I thought maybe the guy wasn't lying. But the way he went about asking for help was just crazy. After a couple of minutes, I managed to stop thinking about the earlier incident and relaxed for the rest of the drive. I pulled into the customer's driveway and brought the food up to their door. After they finished paying with cash, I thanked them and started to head back to my car. As I walked down the driveway, I noticed a car parked down the street with its lights on. My stomach dropped as I realized it was the same blue pickup truck I had seen earlier. It hadn't been there when I came down the street before, so it had just arrived. I quickly got back in my car and glanced at my rearview mirror for a moment. I knew I couldn't stay in the customer's driveway for too long without it being suspicious, so I started to back out. I drove down the street towards the truck, and as I passed it, I saw the same crazy guy staring at me from the driver's seat. I stepped on the pedal harder, eager to get out of there as quickly as possible. However, when I looked in my rearview mirror, I saw the truck make a U-turn and start heading towards me on the road. The whole way back to the restaurant was a long, straight road with few cars or places to stop. A minute down the road, I saw the truck appear behind me again. This guy was clearly insane. I remembered how he had stopped me in the middle of the road earlier, and I couldn't help but wonder what he was trying to do. The thought was terrifying, and I drove as fast as I could, desperate to get away from him. I reached for my phone in my pocket, my hands trembling, and carefully dialed 911 as the blue pickup truck was gaining on me rapidly. I explained to the operator that I was being followed by a crazed man in the truck and provided them with the road I was on and the direction I was headed. The operator assured me that a patrol officer was just 2 minutes away from my location and instructed me to remain calm and keep driving until I saw them. I followed the operator's instructions, but only a few seconds later, the truck accelerated and swerved into the oncoming traffic lane to pass me. My heart pounded in my chest as I slammed on my brakes, narrowly avoiding a collision with the side of the truck. I was in a state of shock as I heard the man's car door open and his footsteps running towards my car. He began banging on my window again, yelling and screaming, while I desperately tried to put my car in reverse. After a moment that felt like an eternity, the man ran back to his truck. Just then, I saw flashing red and blue lights ahead. A patrol car was approaching, and the truck swerved back around and passed me as the patrol car chased after him. Later, I was informed that the man was eventually apprehended. What made the situation even more terrifying was that, along with drugs and alcohol, rope and handcuffs were found in the back seat of his car. The entire ordeal left me shaken and grateful for the prompt response of law enforcement. It was a chilling reminder of the dangers that can lurk in unexpected situations, and I was relieved that it had ended without harm. During the holiday season, I visited my family and embarked on a short road trip to and from my parents' house. I stayed with them for just over a week and then departed on a Tuesday afternoon around 3 o'clock to head back home. The first hour of driving involved navigating through the bustling city, followed by another hour passing through the quiet suburbs. Eventually, I found myself on a long, desolate highway, with no other vehicles in sight by 10 p.m. Feeling fatigued and with heavy eyes, I decided to turn off my music, as it was making me even sleepier. I focused on staying awake while driving, and that's when I noticed a faint glimmer of light up ahead on the road. As I got closer, I realized it was the reflection of my headlights shining on a parked car by the side of the road. The car appeared abandoned, but with its tinted windows and the darkness, it was hard to tell. I slowed down to pass it, wary of getting stranded in such a remote area where the nearest town was an hour behind me. As I continued down the road, a blindingly bright light suddenly appeared in my rearview mirror, making it impossible to see the vehicle behind me. The light was coming from a car that seemed to be approaching rapidly, so I slowed down to let it pass. But to my shock, as I continued driving, I noticed another car parked right in the middle of the road up ahead, blocking my path. Its lights were off, and I didn't see it until I was dangerously close. I slammed on the brakes, and the light in my rearview mirror grew even brighter, indicating that the car behind me was catching up fast. Realizing the situation was dire, I attempted to turn my car around, only to see that the car behind me had parked diagonally across the road, preventing my escape. At that moment, multiple doors opened, and 3 people started running toward me. Panic surged through me, and I veered off the road and into the trees, desperately trying to maneuver around them and get back on the other side of the road. I was so focused on avoiding trees and getting stuck that I didn't even check if they were chasing me. Within seconds, a gunshot rang out, narrowly missing my car. Shaking and in a state of panic, I grazed the side of a tree as I made my way back to the road. I managed to get back on the road and drive away at breakneck speed, knowing there was no nearby safety. After about 10 minutes of driving, I finally had enough reception on my phone to call the police, but my phone was completely out of service before that. Thankfully, the attackers didn't seem to pursue me beyond the scene. However, the police were unable to locate them, and I can only hope that their intentions were limited to robbery. Given their isolated location and willingness to use guns, I fear they may have had something much more sinister planned. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and sharing it to support me. The best is yet to come.